Hello all, today we are going to be doing a lesson on the Northern Colonies, also known as the New England Colonies. Here we see a map of the colonies, but today we're going to be focusing on the New Hampshire and Massachusetts area. So before we get any further, I want to ask you, is there anything that you already know about the Northern Colonies? I want you to think to yourself, is there anything that I might know? Something that a lot of people know about the Northern Colonies or the New England Colonies is that it was the place where the first Thanksgiving was held that the Native Americans and the Pilgrims celebrated together. So now we're going to watch this video on the New England Colonies just to get a little bit of an overview of the colonies and what they looked like.
Hey, it's Lindsay. I want to talk to you about the Pilgrims. You probably heard of these colonists with the old school hats and bonnets. They chowed down with Native Americans at the first Thanksgiving. But did you know there is so much more to their story? In 1620, a group of Puritans left Europe, fleeing religious persecution. They called themselves Pilgrims. Why? Because pilgrim means a person who migrates to a new home for religious reasons. Spot on. They hitched a ride on this beauty, a little boat called the Mayflower. The Mayflower was headed to Virginia, but got blown off course. Whoa! The ship landed way far north off the mark on a place the Pilgrims called Plymouth Rock. The Pilgrims decided to turn their mistaken landing into an opportunity and establish the colony Plymouth right there. It wasn't easy at first, but a lot of hard work and help from local Native Americans turned Plymouth into a happening place. More folks came over from Europe to settle in the Plymouth area. New settlements like Boston sprang up. The whole region became a big colony called Massachusetts. Now this guy with the frilly collar is John Winthrop. He was the first governor of Massachusetts and a Puritan. He made the colony a theocracy. That means Massachusetts was governed by the rules of the Puritan religion. Only Puritans could vote in elections. Some people of other religions were banished from the colony. It was totally unfair. The Puritans, who came to America to escape religious persecution, were persecuting others. The strict rules caused many folks to leave with their friends and do their own thing. Like Thomas Hooker, who left Massachusetts and established Connecticut. Or Roger Williams and Anne Hutchinson, who created the colony of Rhode Island. Now, New Hampshire is a different story. King Charles I gave that whole colony to famous wearer of tiny glasses, John Mason. Thanks, Charlie. New England wasn't a great place to farm. It had long winters and rocky soil that wasn't good for planting crops. But people found other ways to make a living. Fishing, shipbuilding, fur trapping, whaling, and lumber production. New England was also a big part of the triangular trade. Rum made in New England was shipped to Africa, where it was traded for enslaved people. Those people were forced to farm sugar in the West Indies. That sugar was then traded to New England and used to make rum. How did the New Englanders eat? They traded food from the other colonies. Thanks for the grub, Pennsylvania. Thanks for taking a spin with me to the New England colonies. What else do you want to know about American history? Let's explore more next time. See you around.
All right, so now we're going to keep going and move on with our New England colonies.
Hey!
So there are 4 major New England colonies: Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and New Hampshire. And like they said in the video, it was a pretty rocky climate. There wasn't, the soil was rocky and thin, and it wasn't really useful for growing crops. So these people didn't farm, the Northerners did not farm. Many areas were covered with forests, so they did a lot more of fishing and whaling and shipping goods around the world, just so they could get food in, but make sure they're trading with other areas to also get the things that they needed to run their colony. So right now, I want you to take a moment and take out your Northern Colonies note sheet. All the words that are highlighted, like the word highlighted on this slide, are going to be words that you need to enter into your note sheet. So take a minute and download that note sheet, from Canvas and put it into Notability so you can add a text box and put the highlighted words into your note sheet, and so you can have those notes for future reference. So moving forward, we're going to start with Massachusetts. So Massachusetts was the first New England colony. It was one of the first colonies founded. The Pilgrims established Plymouth Colony in 1620, and the Pilgrims were planning to go to Virginia, but like they said in the video, their ship was blown off course, and they ended up in Massachusetts instead. So just want to make sure on number 2, you should have entered Pilgrims onto your notability note sheet for the northern colonies. Moving forward, the Pilgrims were not prepared. They were not prepared for the winter weather, and many of them did not have enough food, and many of these settlers caught diseases and unfortunately died. Over half of the Pilgrims that landed in Massachusetts did not last. But those who did not die from disease or starvation, they were pretty strong and they kept the colony going. So this was the area where the first Thanksgiving was celebrated with the Native Americans. And that's really important because that's what a lot of people know about the northern colonies, and it is extremely important for America because many Americans still to this day celebrate Thanksgiving. The next part we're going to talk about are the Puritans. So the Puritans arrived 9 years later, and they were a certain group of people that believed in a certain religion, and they set up a colony in the north of Plymouth Colony, named, this is now the Boston area, what's now Boston, and they named their settlement the Massachusetts Bay Colony. So the Puritans, the church was extremely important, and people that did not agree with the Puritan church were kicked out of this colony. So many people who were kicked out of the Puritan colony left to form their own colonies. So now we're going to move forward. So now we're on the Connecticut part of your note sheet. Just make sure you're staying on task with that so you don't miss anything. So first, this was founded by Puritan settlers in 1936 and led by a man named Thomas Hooker. Most of this land was bought from some Native Americans, but there was another Native American tribe called the Pequot tribe, who also wanted this land, and they actually attacked the Puritan settlers, and it was named the Pequot War. This is a really big war in history. Not a big war, but it is a very big situation that happened. And the colonists did have stronger weapons, so they were able to defeat the natives pretty quickly. But it's still something to take note about in Connecticut. They actually then wrote a document called the Fundamental Orders of Connecticut, and it was written with ideas that are similar to the now United States Constitution, and some people even say that it was the first constitution written in the Western Hemisphere. So now we're on to Rhode Island. So a man named Roger Williams founded the Rhode Island colony. Make sure you add Roger Williams on your line 1 on your note sheet. So he was the one who helped the people create this colony. He thought the Puritan church was trying to control the people too much. So he founded the colony of Rhode Island so they could have an area where people didn't have to believe a certain way. The people of Rhode Island were able to vote no matter what they believed, so you didn't have to believe in a certain religion to be able to vote, which was what a lot of people liked, which in turn encouraged people to move to Rhode Island. He was determined to start a colony that allowed all religious beliefs, not just one or the other. So lastly, we have New Hampshire. So this is the last New England colony that was founded, and it was led by John Wheelwright with English settlers. Many people moved to this colony because of the many resources they had. They were interested in the fishing communities and trading European goods for animal furs, which was really enticing or made a lot of people want to move to New Hampshire because there were new natural resources. In 1641, Massachusetts actually took control of New Hampshire. So New Hampshire wasn't really that it wasn't in place for that long because the settlers landed there in 1638, but then it was taken over by Massachusetts in 1641. But we still have a New Hampshire to this day. But yeah, that's pretty much the most important part of New Hampshire. But these colonies were very important for the success of all colonies because they had strong trade networks and they helped colonies grow in the early years of American history. And this colonial region was also the home to many revolutionary men and women, which then helped shape the future of America. So these are a few pictures of what some of the New England colonies might have looked like. There's a church in the center, and then there's a grassy area for animals, and then there would be areas for artisans or people who had shops to create their crops and sell their goods. And now you all are going to create your own New England colony. So here is what you need to include. So this is the time where you can create this on Notability if you'd like, or you could use a blank sheet of paper. I would encourage you to use a blank sheet of paper just so you can really, get in there and draw what you'd like. So you need to have a name for your colony. The church has to be the center of the town, and the town needs to, build off of the center. The homes have to surround the town commons, so with the church area and the shops area. And then it also needs to be a grassy area for artisan shops and animals to graze. It's important to note that the wealthier families lived closer to the town, so closer to the town commons, and the poorer families lived further away. So make sure you think about that as you're creating your own colony. Please add a meeting house or shops for artisans and the homes for the people living there. I want you to get really creative. So that is the end of this. Please make sure you turn in your note sheet on Canvas, and then I would also like you to take a picture of your colony, and then we might be able to work on it further another day. So that is that. Thank you all for taking time to listen to this lesson.